The White House, the Biden administration is filled with a bunch of traditional, conventional political figures that grew up over the last 20 years talking about cooperating with China. We saw how that worked out. They took all of our jobs, they took all of our factories, they got rich, we got poor, their middle class grew, our middle class shrunk. They make things and we don't. You think about all of the values that make you a strong society, family, children's, patriotism, all of that is diminished. The only thing that matters now, the thing that has gone up, is people care about money, and I'm not saying that doesn't matter, but China knows it and they use it against us. And they know that in America, they believe one day there are enough people to pressure their politicians because they care more about buying cheap shirts off an app from China than they do about standing up for their own country. At some point, we need to figure out that we are Americans. Someone needs to stand up for this country. If we don't, no one will. And that the world is a better place because of America, and it'll be a worse place if America declines.
So this is the end of white supremacy as we know it. And the irony is that now it's the rest of the world versus white supremacy. And everybody is throwing a tantrum in the West because they're like, how dare you? How dare you? But the rest of the world's like, we don't care, and we're gonna do it. And that's what's funny.
The Shanghai
Cooperation
Organization.
That's right.
They're the Magilla behind the whole thing, where it used to be the dollar.
That is exactly correct. That is exactly correct. And when you talked about the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, you got China, India, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Pakistan, Russia, I can't even pronounce half of these stands, Pakistan, Uzbekistan, they're full members, but you also have, as dialogue partners, you have Afghanistan, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Bahrain, Belarus, Cambodia, Kuwait, Maldives, Mongolia, Myanmar, Nepal, Saudi Arabia, Sri Lanka, Turkey, Turkmenistan, and Qatar. They're all coming together. When you put all of these together, you're talking 80% of human population coming together against the Western hegemony. And the glue that will make it stick is the pledging of commodities to the system. The Shanghai Cooperation Organization has told the world that they want to have a settlement currency for the entire Eurasian landmass backed by gold.
10 years ago, Chinese President Xi Jinping gave a speech in Kazakhstan and proposed a new economic corridor of a new Silk Road. No journalists or think tanks in the West understood the transformative nature of what would become the Belt and Road Initiative, the BRI. But Xi Jinping was planting the seed of a multipolar world. China's BRI has grown to include 149 countries, that's 76% of the entire planet, and has built infrastructure projects worth upwards of $4 trillion. 10 years ago, China's BRI ambitions seemed impossible, but fast forward to today, and more than 1,000 freight trains link China and Europe every month. China's Belt and Road is about connectivity, trade, cooperation, digital revolution, e-commerce, and a myriad of infrastructure developments.
But we have to have a serious plan to punish the CCP for what they did with the virus, covering it up and lying about it, and then also their hyper-aggressive action with Belt and Road.
There's several groups that are all tied together like this. The Belt Road, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, the BRICS, and the Eurasian Economic Union, where the Belt Road Initiative has every one of the 13 OPEC producing countries on the Belt Road, the largest infrastructure project in human history. It's all connecting through trade routes, if you will. For example, the north-south corridor that connects from Iran to India and allows Iran and Russia and India to trade without going around waters that are patrolled by the US Navy. It allows them to have the ability to reach each other much more quickly and without the Western influence. And all of these routes and all of these agreements are bringing the world together against the West. And it's
is it really a road?
The Belt Road Initiative are roads, bridges, maritime channels, railways, all of these things. And, all of these things coming together.
Years ago, Marco Polo days, it was called the Silk Road.
It's the exact same thing. But it's more than that, too. You have this deal, and if you look at what China is doing, right now you have Iran and Iraq, of all countries who've hated each other for centuries, are currently in a broker deal by China in the final stages on work of the first rail connection between the two states in history. And they can easily connect. It's a 1,500 kilometer railway. They can also connect Syria and Lebanon, all part of the Belt Road Initiative.
You go to the Saudis and you say, knock it off. You're going to keep on using the dollar for the petrodollar. You save OPEC, which will increase the dollar strength as a world reserve currency.
You know, as a typical white supremacist, or what did I say I was going to call it, white preferring individual, you know, of course, his perspective is the only way to rise up is by oppressing others. That's what his forefathers have done. That's what they did to get to where they are. You know, a bunch of books, bunch of links that I'm going to put down below for you guys to read for so you have references. But of course, he's going to say oppress others. But it's so ironic because the Chinese are doing the opposite. You know, we rise by lifting others, and that's exactly what the Chinese are doing. So this idea of like save OPEC only based on Western interests, only based on Western agendas. So it's not about saving OPEC, it's about controlling OPEC for a white supremacist agenda. But as far as we see, OPEC is enjoying the benefits of partnering with their, with Middle Eastern countries, coming back together, unifying, and, working with China, but more importantly, respecting their neighbor. What do they say in the biblical works? Love thy neighbor as yourself. But it's so funny how when capitalism just blurs people's minds, or white supremacy blurs people's minds, they forget about some of the values that they preach themselves when they're in church or whatever religion that they have. It's interesting. So China is slowly putting all the pieces together, meddling in the Middle East conflict and actually uniting them, which is actually interesting because this is why you just can't believe everything you see in propaganda, right? When you think about what is America's involvement in the Middle East, and I talked about the agreement, the petrodollar agreement that it made with Saudi Arabia, it actually fueled the division within the Middle East. America acted like a typical colonizer, went to the Middle East, saw that these guys are tribalistic, they're having these tribalistic types of wars, and kind of divided and conquered. And, so this is how they brokered deal, because Saudi Arabia wanted to be the superpower in the Middle East, and America facilitated that by supporting them with American military, but in exchange for the petrodollar. So backing dollars buy oil and making sure everybody that buys oil has to buy it in US dollars. So this was the agreement, but what did that do? It caused a divide in the Middle East. But what is China going in to do?
It's really being overlooked, in my opinion, by the media, and I don't quite understand it. And this is the peace deal that has been brokered, by the only adult in the room, and that has been China, brokering a peace deal between Saudi Arabia and Iran, two mortal enemies.
And also, isn't Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq also?
Well, Iran and Iraq, they've also brokered a peace deal between Iran and Iraq, where they've now built a railway between the two countries. Yeah. They are mending fences. But in terms of what happened in Saudi Arabia, here you got Sunni and Shiite. They've been at each other's throats for centuries. And it is a reconciliation between the two countries brokered by China, and the two countries are now reestablishing diplomatic ties and opening embassies in each other's country. You have other Gulf states that are coming together, like the UAE and Kuwait, but all of this, none of them more important than what just happened, and that is the Chinese mediated Iran, Saudi Arabia deal, where they're now building, for the first time ever, they're putting embassies in each other's countries, and they are coming together, I think, in what is mutual cooperation, where everyone economically cooperates in mutually beneficial ways with the view not only towards building common destiny, but this represents a massive nail in the Western hegemony, where all of these countries, where the West has really precipitated and this constant bickering, China's coming in and building infrastructure in Africa, in South America, in Saudi Arabia, in Iran, in Iraq, and all of these countries, they come in, they build infrastructure, and they are creating cooperation against the West.
The proof is just in the pudding. And I'm not this China advocate every country has its flaws. I just think we have to look at these things objectively. China is going into the Middle East and they're brokering partnerships. They're making Iran and Saudi Arabia, who have been mortal enemies for decades, maybe even longer. They're uniting them. Iran, Iraq, all these countries that had conflict are being united. Because of what? China? China knows what it's doing, but the proof is in the pudding. How did America rise to fame, rise to power, and how has China done that? China has done it through collaboration, mutual benefit. I'm not saying that China is a better option. I'm not saying that, because you never know. The snake might come out down the line. You never know. But I'm just saying, it's just interesting to observe, and how you start something is typically how you finish it, right? It's going to be hard for China to start, beating on a new tune when this is the tune that they set the tune of, collaboration and mutual benefits. And it will be interesting to see them change the tune. I don't think so. I don't think it'll be hard. It will be hard for them to do that, but they're capable, because as I'm breaking down for you all the little pieces to the Chinese puzzle. So what else is there? Developing BRICS, and that's potentially even a currency, right? The Belt and Road Initiative, that's the idea of building infrastructure in all these countries, so many countries. So the Chinese were very smart, because they broke all these initiatives up into different pieces, started these organizations, no one could see it coming, and they disguised them by doing that. So nobody could see that it was coming into formation. No one could see that the power of China was building. And then now it's all coming together like a tsunami over the US's global domination. But the real question is this such a bad thing? That's the question. Is it such a bad thing? Is it really the worst thing in the world if China destabilizes the dollar? And more importantly, because I think people just assume that if the dollar declines, oh my gosh, it's the end of the world. No, absolutely not. There's now we're in this new era where it's becoming more obvious that there's enough room for two superpowers to thrive. And unfortunately, the US and China their tensions are so high right now. They see this as a threat, and they're talking about war. They're talking about war. And I think it's so sad. And I hope the war, if it is a war, I hope it remains a Cold War, not an actual war. That would be stupid. But if they do go into war with each other, it would be, I don't know. But I don't think it's the worst thing in the world to have two countries that are superpowers. If China surpasses America a little bit, it's going to be fine. America could still thrive. America could, especially when you look at the UK did not decline because America became the superpower. And the irony here is that, yeah, sure, when it comes to the UK, America, the past 500 years have been ruled by the West. The past 500 years has been about the West, about Western empires, Dutch Empire, British Empire, American Empire. And so even though one empire falls, they're still white. And by white, they're still Western European / American. And so because this white supremacist agenda ensures that they still support each other. So even though Britain fell as the superpower, America and Britain have very close relationships, very close ties. In fact, America and Britain probably are the closest allies, but they're very, very close ties. And so now that this power is shifting to China and the East, well, that's not going to preserve white supremacy. And so it's going to be interesting to see what happens, because the rest of the world, we're just tired. Tired of white supremacy. We're tired of all of it. And there's a level of audacity that a lot of white supporting people have, or yes, this thing is complicated. On one side, it's the dollar, it's your livelihood. Everybody in this country is multicultural, so everybody will feel it. So you might not see it from that perspective. if you're looking at it from a very like myopic standpoint, you know, or microscopic standpoint from a country level. But when you take yourself out of America and you just look at the world and you understand how some countries suffer because of America's capitalism, how America extorts some countries from their resources and uses it to make America richer, and America sells them back their goods, or America, you know, bombs other countries. When you look at it from that perspective, you'll understand that, like, ultimately, even in the America that we are in, it's the whites that they let rule. The blacks don't get the same standard. So you might be black in America, you might be whatever in America, you're still a second-class citizen in this country. You don't get the best that you can get, right? And you can get incredible things, but if you were in your homeland, you had this kind of wealth that you have in America, you would be treated, you'd be treated better than you would be treated in America. And so I say all this to say that, yeah, it's myopic because you're thinking about it from your own experience in America, but you gotta take yourself out of here. You have to understand what America is doing to the rest of the world, and how really, when you look at it from that perspective, you really understand how white supremacy is declining. The world is fed up of sort of like the rhetoric of white supremacy, and you just see all of them just throwing a tantrum. And the irony is that the Democrats and the Republicans, they're no better than each other. They're just both as bad. Now it's now begging the question, is democracy the best standard for a nation? When you look at China, and I don't condone sort of like the way, I love freedom, I love, you know, there are pros and cons to everything, I'll say it that way. But when you look at China, there are some benefits in having, they don't call it a communist, I'm trying to remember what they call it, but it's very autocratic, right? So you have one guy, he's been there, he's just started his third term. And so he's been there for so long, and the country is going in one direction. Just like a company. Companies are autocratic. Companies go in one direction because they have one leader that stays there and takes them in that one direction. But with America, Trump might have had a vision with how he was going to, you know, print all these dollars, but still resurrect us from that in his second term, right? But because we took him out, we put Biden in, Biden did something else. And equally as bad, joining Ukraine and seizing Russia's dollars, and that was equally stupid. That was equally as bad as Trump. And so, you know, this changing that democracy requires might just actually not be the best for a superpower country. Who knows? So I hope you enjoyed this video. You know, this channel, I talk about money, I talk about its moneytainment, about making money and all those things, but I think that it's so important to understand the political landscape to enhance your ability to make money, because the last thing you want to do is invest in a country when there's a war that's about to happen or there's a recession that's about to happen. So if you want to make the best financial decisions, you have to watch, you know, the geopolitical landscape. You have to pay attention to politics, and you have to watch what's going on. And so that's why I took the time out to break some of these concepts for you, so you can see these different perspectives, but you can also see the opportunities that are arising, because there's money everywhere. Yeah, sure, the dollar is declining. Some people are saying it's going to take 30 years, 10 to 30 years, who knows really. But I think the best thing that I would say is to diversify. If people are thinking of investing in the stock market, I would just say no, that's not a great decision right now, but do you? If you're thinking about buying a house, maybe, you know, look at buying a house in other countries. Like, I know people are buying houses in Bali, and, you know, they're putting it on Airbnb. People are buying houses in different places. It's up to you to go and research an emerging market, because you want to come in before the boom. I would say Bali has already boomed. So if I was gonna, you know, do that, I wouldn't go to Bali to buy a house. I would search for a place that's going to boom, and then I would invest in that, because you really want to take advantage of an opportunity before it happens. If everybody's talking about it, it's not a good investment. So you want to be searching around the world. Where's a good place to invest? What are some emerging markets that I can invest in? Of course, diversify, put your money in different places. But I know people are investing in China. I know people that are investing in the Middle East. People are investing all over the world. So I would say, open up your mind, do some research, and, you know, look at investing outside the US. Look at investing outside the dollar. Look at buying precious metals. Right now, if you want to save money, gold, silver, gold and silver. Those are the things that, if you really want to save, don't save in cash. Don't save in the banks. We see what's going on with banks. Don't save in the banks because they only take your money and they invest it. So these are some important things to understand. AI is a great, if I was going to invest, guess what I would invest in too? AI, microchip companies. But if I were you, I would look at good investments in that way. I would look at what is emerging, what's happening, what's about to happen. And you can never really tell these things, but you just really have to just research, always be looking for the next good investment. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts. Leave a comment down below. I hope you enjoyed this video. More videos coming soon. More episodes. I still have to make some more episodes, but I just feel like I'm not getting enough views, so I might not. Guys, I would love to make more episodes, but I feel like I'm just not getting enough views. So if I get 50 likes on this video, I'll make another episode. If I don't get 50 likes, then I probably will ditch part 3 and 4, which is about central bank and digital currencies. What's another episode? I was gonna do more episodes, but I just feel like I'm not getting enough views. So guys, I want to see 50 likes. That's just 50 likes. If I see that, I'll continue this series. I'm really having fun with it. Anyway, let me know your thoughts. Leave a comment down below. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, all the above. You're watching the University of Making Money. I'm your host, Kenim O, and I'll see you in the next one. A peace.